Hello and welcome to another episode of Crushing Comics, the show where I fall in love with my comic book collection all over again. I have what I think is a single omnibus here. And as we open it, today I want to talk about idols. Not American idols, but maybe it is an American idol. Do you have an idol? Somebody that you look up to and inspires you and you want to emulate? Is it Kelly Clarkson? And if not, why not? No, I don't know. I was just thinking about that in terms of if you know the person or not. I think that's really interesting. I grew up with some awesome, strong women in my life who I definitely appreciated, but I don't know if they were my idol. Like, I don't know if any of them were the thing that I was like, wow, I want to grow up and be just like that. If anything, I think Madonna was my idol. And I was just thinking about the difference between having somebody in your actual life who's an idol and then having somebody who you see from afar, right? Like kids who idolized Michael Jordan, or people now who idolize Lady Gaga, or people who idolized Oprah, these media figures, right? Versus somebody you idolize in your actual life, like somebody who became a successful doctor, or somebody who started their own business, or just somebody who's a really kind, good-hearted person. And I think kids need both, right? Like, I think that it's great to have this aspirational, like, wow, this person's really successful idol, but that kind of ruins the curve of success when the only thing that looks idolizable and successful to you is this thing that's a really great example of not only perseverance but also an amount of luck, as opposed to somebody in your own life who probably got there from perseverance and from hard work and is much more attainable. And I'm just thinking about that, you know, in terms of, now I have my own daughter and trying to find both the person in her own life that she thinks is cool to idolize and the person, you know, in the real world, but that she's not going to meet that's important to idolize. So think about that. Who were your idols? Was it somebody that you knew personally, or was it somebody that you never met? And did you actually turn into them? Like, did that actually help guide you, or now that you're a grown-up, are you like, it didn't really have any impact on me at all? Did Madonna have an impact on me? I would say yes. Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh! As the case may be, this is all about strong women. It is the Women of Marvel Omnibus. This book is much maligned because Marvel has never really done a lot of these hodgepodgey omnibuses. This has so many different things in it. Mystic Comics 4, Tales to Astonish 51 or 58, X-Men 57, Night Nurse 1 through 4, The Cat 1 through 4, Marvel Team Up 8, Giant Size Creatures number 1, Marvel Premiere 42, Shanna's She-Devil 1 through 5, Khazar Lord of the Hidden Jungle 2, Daredevil 108 to 112, Marvel 213, Marvel Graphic Novels 12, 16, 18, Firestar 1 through 4, She-Hulk Ceremony 1 and 2, Captain Marvel 1 again, Millie the Model 100, Patsy Walker 119, Solo Avengers 9, and Marvel Comics Present 36, but also Marvel Fanfare 59. Marvel hasn't really done a lot of these mixy-matchy omnibuses, right? They do, like, sometimes they do those, like, Marvel Firsts one, which, like, who needs an omnibus as the first appearance of, like, a bunch of unconnected characters? They did that for Marvel Now, too, like, the first of all Marvel Now issues. DC does that kind of thing all the time. But this actually was before a lot of those. And I think people kind of were just like, what is that? Women of Marvel, blah. So it really was on sale. I got this for, like, some obscenely low price, like $25 or something like that. This is a freaking goldmine, okay? I don't think people appreciate what they were getting here. This is like every significant freestanding adventure focusing on the Women of Marvel that from the 40s to the mid-90s. And you have to think that Marvel didn't have a Wonder Woman, right? Their female characters in the 60s were Wasp in the Avengers, Jean Grey in X-Men, Invisible Woman in Fantastic Four, Black Widow in Avengers. There was no female star there. Even DC had, in addition to Wonder Woman, Black Canary, who was appearing in backup features, and also Batgirl. So DC at the time had way more freestanding adventurous women than Marvel, who effectively in the 60s had just about none. And if you look at the material here from the 60s, it's all from Tales to Astonish, which I have to assume is all Wasp material. Yeah, it's all Ant-Man and Wasp material. So Marvel made a change at the beginning of the 1970s in some of those anthology series I was recently telling you about, where they started using that, and then also their first miniseries ever to try out some female characters. And that started with Night Nurse in 1972, who got her own title. Now, we all know Night Nurse now because Rosaria Dawson, right? Dawson? Is playing her in the Marvel Netflix shows. But this was the introduction of Night Nurse, and she had her own comic book. It's just wild. Like, and I don't even think I knew this before I got this omnibus. And I'm a student of Marvel history. And then Tigra gets her own comic book. I think it's Tigra as the cat, even though she looks way more like Hellcat here. I think that's Tigra pre-fuzziness. I don't know. So this traces, you know, the emergence of Marvel's... Here we go. Is it Tigra? Yes, it is Tigra. This is the beginning of Marvel actually having women as starring featured roles, and it collects a lot of other interesting stuff too. It collects some Black Widow key issues from Daredevil. That's what those Daredevil issues were. The Khazar issue also has Shanna the She-Devil in it. Marvel Graphic Novel 12 is Dazzler the movie, Dazzler's graphic novel. Marvel Graphic Novel 16, The Aladdin Effect. I don't even know what that is. So, you know, much hay is made of representation in comics. And is it important? Oh, wow, The Aladdin Effect. I might be reading this with my kid. The Aladdin Effect, talk about idols, is this little girl, and she's like dreaming or something, and she's got all of the women of Marvel surrounding her. So I don't even know what that is. I've never even heard of it before. So, you know, we talk a lot about representation now and diversity and inclusion on the page. You know, is it important that you can see somebody who's like you on the page? I happen to be watching a great live stream from the Omnibus Collectors channel, Omnibros, and somebody was saying, you know, that he was a Hispanic man and he never had a Hispanic X-Men to look at until the 90s, but he still identified with the X-Men. So it's not that you can't identify with somebody on the page if they aren't like you, right? Like a girl doesn't need a girl idol, right? It's going back to the introduction. She doesn't need a girl hero, a woman hero to identify with. And my daughter likes Batman and Robin. She likes Spider-Man. But everybody deserves to be able to see themselves on the page. And I, as a white guy, have seen myself on the page a lot. And women, when it comes to adventure comics, don't see themselves as much. And when they do, they frequently see themselves as the girlfriend or the token woman on the team, the Jean Grey, the Wasp, the Invisible Woman. And I think that this book is remarkable because it shows the evolution of female solo characters at Marvel. Dazzler and Spider-Woman, She-Hulk at the end of the 70s, they aren't in here because they actually had long-running series now which are getting Marvel Masterworked. And it's incredible to look at this Marvel Masterwork shelf and see all these famous men and then also see Miss Marvel and Spider-Woman and She-Hulk should be up here somewhere. It's fantastic. It makes me really happy. So this tracks Marvel up into the point that before they were launching those, and then it collects some cool 80s stuff. It also has Firestar, which was a miniseries that was a branch off of X-Men at the time. It has She-Hulk's graphic novel and She-Hulk's Ceremony, which came before the John Byrne series. The Captain Marvel here is Monica Rambeau, who we now know as Spectrum, and it has her 2 one-shots in here. She had been a long-running leader of the Avengers team, and I think a lot of people don't know who she is because it wasn't a period of Avengers that a lot of people recall, and so this is a chance to get to know her. And it has some Hellcat stuff too. The transformation of Patsy Walker from like Marvel's gal pal into Hellcat. So I think it's a super cool book. I don't know why people were so down on it. Probably because at the time they were like, well, that's not one continuous run that I can just have and love. But I look at it like, if Marvel can find a way to coherently compile all of these various things that are probably never going to be part of a coherent run, part of a Masterworks, and say, like, look, we put them here for you. That has amazing archival value for me, and it makes me want to read these things because it's well curated. This is one of the few examples of like a well curated Marvel omnibus that didn't just have obvious contents. I wish they would do an omnibus like this for their horror stuff. There's so much short run horror stuff that Marvel could probably collect into an omnibus, especially one of this size and weight, that would would make us not have to worry about, are we ever going to see this Damon Hellstrom stuff, this Satana stuff, this Dr. Voodoo stuff, all of which was in Marvel Essentials. Now, Marvel actually sometimes does like dip from a whole Essentials and put it into an omnibus, especially now. They just did it with the Punisher Back to War omnibus that collected pretty much all of his Essentials, which is everything leading up to his first miniseries. One would hope that maybe they're going to do that with the Marvel Essentials for the horror stuff too, but this was like an original collection. This had never been different parts in different times. And this is because Marvel was doing some kind of like Year of the Woman type thing in the year that this came out. It was like 70 years of Women at Marvel, and this was to commemorate that. So it's probably still cheap. You probably can still set an eBay alert and get it at a really affordable price, and I would say absolutely pick it up if you have an interest in any of these characters. It's a great, far-ranging look at the awesome, mighty Women of Marvel through the ages. So I'm super, super happy to have it, and I think it's going to get pulled out to read some comics with my daughter sometime soon. So now for the official shelving, I think we're going to make room for it right here, of Women of Marvel. See, it says right in the spine, celebrating 7 decades. Here we go. I have to move my paperweight. Bookend, rather. Tune in next time for more opening, more reminiscing, and more talk about how much I love my comic book collection here on Crushing Comics.